The Big Whack presents Buffalo on the Rise, sponsored by Dr. Kaplansky Dental Implants. Get new permanent teeth in 24 hours with our exclusive Teeth Now process. Welcome to the television show devoted to local business, Buffalo on the Rise, with your host, Joe Chili. There's an entrepreneurial spirit in Western New York that's putting our area on the cusp of greatness. Each week, Buffalo on the Rise features local business leaders and decision makers who are shaping our future. If it's about local business, we'll talk about it right here, right now, during Buffalo on the Rise.
I'm Joe Chili. On this edition of The Big Whack presents Buffalo on the Rise. Sadly, overdose deaths are increasing at an alarming rate, impacting older adults. Spectrum Health and Human Services is here with some life-saving advice. Helping our veterans with their health care is vitally important, especially if they've been exposed to toxins while serving our country. Find out what the VA is doing to help. Then Dr. Kaplansky is back with some innovative and cost-saving advice with dental care for you and your family. All on this edition of The Big Whack presents Buffalo on the Rise. Hi, I'm Joe Chili. Mornings from 7 to 9 on Buffalo's oldie station, The Big Whack. Joining us on The Big Whack's Buffalo on the Rise today is Christopher Weber, who's a peer support specialist with Spectrum Health and Human Services. Welcome to the show.
Joe, thanks so much for having me.
Glad to have you here. Now, I want to ask one question first. What is Spectrum Health and Human Services?
So Spectrum Health and Human Services does mental health and substance use counseling for adults, adolescents, and children. We actually just celebrated 50 years.
Really?
Yep. We're going on 51 now.
You don't look a day over 20. So you're great there. I want to get to Narcan right away because, there's so many issues with drugs now. And when you start talking about Narcan, we discussed this before we actually started. It's not just about the abuser or the user of drugs, because those people aren't going to be able to administer to themselves. So it's about other people, whether it be neighbors, whether it be a parent, whatever the case may be. So can you show us, give us an idea about what Narcan is and how it's used?
So Narcan is the opioid overdose reversal medication. When someone's overdosing, they're basically not breathing, not getting any oxygen, not responding to sternum rubs. So if you have the Narcan on you, first thing you want to do is call 911 and then grab your kit. Each kit is going to have 2 of these in here. Mm-hmm. This is 1 dose. After you call 911, tilt the person's airway back, and 1 squeeze is 1 dose.
Okay.
Wait for 2 minutes, and while they're waiting, put them in the rescue position. If there's no response after 2 minutes, you're going to give them the second dose that's in your kit in the other nostril. Now, once they awaken, they're going to be a little confused. Let them know they've been Narcan and not to use any substances for an hour and a half, because this is going to be blocking the receptors in the brain. Try to get them to go to the emergency room. If they don't, have someone stay with that person for up to 3 hours, because they can go back and overdose once this wears off.
Wow, that's true. Okay, can you show us what the kit looks like? Did you bring that with you here?
Absolutely.
All right, let's just...
So this is going to be a kit.
Okay.
And there are 2 doses in here.
And how do you go about getting the kit?
So you can either go to our website at shswny.org, or you can go to the Erie County website, and they will mail you some.
Okay, it's not a situation where people should be concerned, like, if I get Narcan, they're going to think I'm a user, so they're going to trace it back to me.
Right.
Because people get nervous about arrest or whatever, the case may be. Now, is it something? Can you have an adverse reaction to Narcan?
The good thing about Narcan, there aren't any negative side effects with it. We could take this right now, and other than the coppery taste, we wouldn't feel it. And also, if you come to somebody and you think they may be overdosing, you'd rather give them the Narcan than not give them the Narcan, because like I said, it's not going to hurt them.
We hear about opioids and opioid abuse and whatever. We hear fentanyl. I mean, that's the big buzzword, mm-hmm. Things that you should be nervous about. There seems to be a lot more advertising, a lot more awareness about this, but there seems to be a lot more overdoses. And you would think with all the awareness, it would be going down. Mm-hmm. And I think it's also happening with older individuals. Why? What do you think the reason is?
The potency of the drugs. I can't tell you if there are more or less people using now than there were 15 years ago, but the strength of these drugs that are now being put into being mixed in with cocaine and fentanyl, and drugs that are kind of considered party drugs. So we're seeing older people having their substances mixed with fentanyl. They don't have any dependence on it or tolerance, so that's why we're seeing these overdoses in the ages of 50 and over.
So in the event that you don't know what the individual used, because the individual is probably going to be unconscious when you find them and you're going to use Narcan or whatever the case may be, is it best to use it whether you know whether it's going to be effective or not?
I would say use it if you have any suspicion of any type of opioid overdose.
Do you think that Narcan would have saved the lives of the individuals, like the 7 that just lost their lives in 6 hours? Do you think it would have made a difference? Is that hard to say?
It's hard to say right now because we don't have the reports about specifically why they died. I mean, we can assume that it was directly related to fentanyl, but I'm not 100% certain. If you're using substances, test your drugs.
Wow. You got to be a chemist now, right? But
luckily the county has fentanyl and xylazine testing strips, so you can test your substances before you use them to see if there's any of the fentanyl in there.
And what about if you train an individual to use Narcan? I mean, suppose they get Narcan, it's handed out. You give this to me, and I bring it back with me home. Mm-hmm. How long does it take to train an individual, and do they need to be trained?
You should be trained. There's actually directions on the back of the box. There's videos on YouTube on how to use it. It's just, we want to give people another chance at living, right? It could be a one-time thing where someone overdoses, they didn't know what they had. It's important to always carry Narcan and to know that it's so readily available now. Now,
if I was in a situation where, say for instance, I don't know, I'm at a party or one of my kids, happen to overdose on drugs, or one of their friends happen to, and I use this, is there any liability for me in the event that the person doesn't survive or whatever?
No, so luckily there's the Good Samaritan law, which is saying that as long as you don't have any warrants out or you don't have any drugs up to 8 ounces or more on that person, you're not going to get in trouble for calling 911 and trying to save that person's life.
All right, so how do they get this kit, this Narcan kit?
So they can either go to our website at shswny.org and we can mail you out some, or you can go to Erie County's website and they will mail you some as well.
Do you find people are really interested in doing this? Do you get a big response from people that are getting tests or the kits?
We do. We do a ton of tabling events where we're out in the community and we're offering the free Narcan with the training right there. So once you're trained with us, we'll give you a kit.
All right. It's very good. It's an amazing thing that you do, and we really appreciate you coming to talk to us,
Thank
Chris.
you so much for having me.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. For more information and answers to your questions, contact Spectrum Health by calling 716-539-5500 or go to shswny.org/harm-reduction. Sponsorship and promotional considerations for the preceding segment was provided by the following. Hi, I'm Joe Chili, mornings from 7 to 9 at Buffalo's oldie station, the Big Weck. Joining us on the Big Weck's Buffalo on the Rise today is Dr. John Wickett from the VA of Western New York. How you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
You're good. Although I have to tell you, I have a little bit of white coat syndrome, so,
well, that's okay.
If my blood pressure is a little higher now, it goes down as the show goes on. Just want you to know about that. Let's talk about some of the things that, I think that people have heard of but may not understand. What is the PACT Act? I mean, I've heard of that too, and who would be eligible for something like that?
Well, the PACT Act is a piece of legislation that was brought forth in 2022, and what it essentially did was it opened up a whole bunch of veterans to different service-connected disabilities and things like that, based off of their toxic exposures.
So, what kind of toxic exposures are we talking about here? And I guess, is it maybe Agent Orange? Because that's something that sounds familiar to me. Somebody that had Agent Orange, would that be eligible under the PACT Act?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a long history of veterans, unfortunately, not getting approved for things, but they've really widened the scope of who is eligible for Agent Orange. There's actually people on many different countries that may qualify for Agent Orange. Thailand has been opened up recently. There's other areas, even stateside, that if you were exposed to Agent Orange, you could possibly be considered service connected for that.
How did they do it? Like a screening? Did they do screenings to check exposure to see if you're eligible?
Yep. So what we do is we talk to you about the places you went, what you did, what your jobs were, and we try and link that up with any possible toxic exposures. You know, we certainly do look at Agent Orange, but we also look at a lot of other things too that veterans have been exposed to, such as jet fuels, Camp Lejeune, other areas that may have toxins. So we kind of take an overall look at the veteran's service history and form a well-formed opinion about whether or not they were exposed to various toxins.
And Doctor, is there a time limit for this? Suppose somebody, came back from Vietnam and they're just now experiencing things, long-term effects or whatever the case may be, but it's just starting to surface as they get older. Is there a span where you're limited to, whatever the benefits might be?
No, I mean, one of the wonderful things about the PACT Act is it's really opened things up. There are even veterans who were never deployed to a combat theater that may qualify under the new PACT Act for benefits. It's really opened up the VA healthcare to almost all veterans that are out there.
That's interesting that you say that. So it may be something like if you came back to the States and you settled someplace, or you brought up a big thing like, because I grew up in Niagara Falls. So, you've got the Air Reserve Base there.
Yeah.
If somebody was exposed to like jet fuel or something from there, or, I understand that, and I probably shouldn't even bring this up, but I understand in latest, some of the forever chemicals that there may be underneath, some of those areas because of the jet fuel and things that drained, or the foam that were used by firefighters or things of this nature.
Yeah.
So something like that. You don't have to be overseas. You don't have to be in Vietnam, Cambodia, whatever.
Nope. No, yeah, those are actually things that are really emerging at this point. The forever chemicals, they're part of a group of chemicals called polyfluorinated substances. And these were used in a wide array of different industrial applications, but firefighting foam is really the one that is the biggest problem with these bases, because what's happened is that foam, after they put out a fire, it really has nowhere to go. So it would just sink into the ground and eventually end up in the groundwater, unfortunately.
And it's not just fires, but from what I understand, even the drills that they used to do, right? And use it in drills and things of this nature, right?
There's constant training in the military for firefighting. So that foam was used all over the place in most bases, actually.
So it doesn't affect your claim if it didn't become effective or happen when you were deployed, basically, is what we're saying.
Correct,
right?
Yeah.
All right. What about veterans' claim that if they've been denied a claim in the past, can they reapply?
Absolutely. You can always put in for another claim. Either if it's been, a short enough period of time, you can reopen the claim or keep it open. But if something else pops up, say, 20 years from now, you develop lung cancer and you never smoked, then that's something that really needs to be looked at.
All right, so in our final minute, how long does it take for a claim to be processed, do you think, on average? I know it probably varies, right?
Yeah, it varies greatly. I mean, for a presumptive service connection, which means that if you were exposed to a substance, we presume that the disease is related to that substance, that can actually be pretty quick, in the order of 2 to 3 months. There's also some expedited claims if it's a really severe or life-threatening condition, and those people can get benefits quicker. But on the average, it's about a year, I would say.
All right. For more information and answers to your questions, contact VA of Western New York, the healthcare system, by calling 716-862-8829 or go to buffalo.va.gov. Sponsorship and promotional considerations for the preceding segment was provided by the following. I'm Joe Chile. You can listen to me mornings on the Big Weck. Joining us today on the Big Weck's Buffalo on the Rise is Dr. Kaplansky. How are you today?
Good. How are you, Joe?
Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. One of the things that I noticed when I was prepping and doing some of the research for the show itself is the fact that there are a lot of national firms. There are a lot of firms that come in now and they're advertising in it. And you know, I always wonder, I like to have local people that I can call on. If I have a dentist, I want to go to the same dentist all the time. I don't want to go to, you know, the dentist of the day, if you will. So what sets you apart from like the national firms?
Well, absolutely. So there's a big move in dentistry now is to consolidate, and basically dentists are selling their practices to larger companies. They're called DSOs. And most of the offices that you see out there, even though they might say Dr. So-and-so, they actually are part of a huge conglomerate, and it's a big corporate organization where profit is the most important thing. So we are a privately owned, very personable, and local dental office. You always see the same people when you come, and we take good care of patients.
What do you think, you know, we know that you're in Gasport, and to some people Gasport may seem like it's a way off or whatever, but you have people from all over Western New York and Southern Ontario coming to you, right?
Absolutely. So Gasport, obviously not the center of the universe, and many people don't even know where it is, but the services that we provide, the process that we invented, and what we do for these patients is so unique that people have absolutely no problem traveling to us from Toronto, from Erie, Pennsylvania, from even Albany.
You say that you can have dental implants in less than a day. Now, is that really true? Less than a day for dental implants?
It does sound sort of magical, doesn't it?
It does.
Yes, the process is really unique, and it uses patients' native bone or native tissue, so we don't rely on grafts. And by doing that and placing implants strategically and kind of joining them together with prosthesis as a brace, we can load these implants right away and give people teeth within 24 hours.
How long did it take you personally to get to the point that you are now, to the teeth now process?
Well, I've been a dentist for 30 years, and I've been in practice in New York for 25 years. And it's pretty much a lifelong journey for me. And every year I just get better, like that wine or cheese.
And there's nothing up your sleeve, right? I want to make sure we're talking about, you know, a magic here and things like that. It is a revolutionary process. Now, it is, you know, you talk about this happening in less than a day. Yes. Traditionally, when we're talking about dental implants, is it something that can take weeks or a month or whatever?
Traditionally, it can take months, sometimes years. So let's say a person doesn't have teeth anymore, and they have deficient bone. They have not enough bone. They would come to a doctor and they would say, well, you're either not a candidate for a procedure or you will require grafting. So grafting takes sometimes months, sometimes years. Patient doesn't have teeth all that time. They just go in toothless and they're undergoing grafting surgeries. Then after grafting, they would attempt to place implants. A lot of times the grafted bone isn't as strong, so the implants cannot be placed. So then you already wasted a whole bunch of time. You wasted a bunch of money. You had no teeth all this time, and now you're stuck with the denture anyways. So a lot of patients experience this kind of a cycle of okay, I'm not getting anywhere with this. I just spend a lot of time and money, and I'm back to where I was with the denture.
Now, when you're talking about dental implants, because I grew up, not that I have dentures, but I grew up in the age of dentures. And there was, you know, you just see people, corn on the cob, pushing it out of the way. Apples, pushing them out of the way. Caramels, pushing them out of the way. Dental implants, can you eat all those things?
You can eat anything. With dentures, you're relying on adhesive. So a lot of people buy denture glue by a bucket, literally, and they put it in there, and the denture comes loose while they're chewing. They have to reapply the adhesive a few times throughout the meal. Dental implants, the way we do it, pretty much gives you a chewing power when we're done, when the process is all finished. not only identical to natural teeth, but sometimes even stronger, even better. We measure their bite force, and there's actually an appliance that can measure the bite force. And their bite force is tremendous. They can bite through anything.
I think there were women in my past that really wanted me to fall asleep and then put that adhesive on my mouth so I didn't talk anymore. I don't say that that works successfully. Some people are told that they're just not a candidate for dental implants. Well, what's your response to that?
Most of the time we say, yes, you are a candidate. So the way it works again is we place implants into patients' native bones. So most patients that have been told that they're not candidates, the dentist only looks at the area where the teeth would go. We go to the other areas in the face, such as zygomatic areas, which is a cheekbone. There's an area behind the jaw on the upper called pterygoid plate. There's also areas inside the nose that can be used. There's called transnasal implants. So we can do all these things. I'm pretty much the only dentist, the only oral implantologist in this area that is qualified to perform these procedures.
Well, for more information and answers to your questions, contact Dentistry by Dr. Kaplansky by calling 716-772-7500 or go to drkaplansky.com. Promotional and sponsorship consideration provided by the following.
Thanks for watching this edition of The Big Wack Presents Buffalo on the Rise. For information on this and other shows, go to our website, bigwack.com, and find out how you can participate on the program if you're a hometown business. I'm Joe Chili. Thanks for watching and listening to The Big Wack, Buffalo's oldie station.
The Big Wack Presents Buffalo on the Rise was sponsored by Dr. Kaplansky Dental Implants. Get new permanent teeth in 24 hours with our exclusive Teeth Now process.